My name's Anju Choudhary, and I'm currently the head of learning and development at Nextrol. And this is my second time with Hacking HR. I got some water here. So I have been talking about passionately on subjects of learning and development, diversity and inclusion, and performance management relates to it really well. Especially in these times when we are not physically present in the office, it becomes even more so important for all of us to focus on performance management in a way that there's no bias, that it is effective, and we are actually helping our employees become the best that they can be. With that, today we're going to talk about if performance management looks like this in your company, then we are certainly failing it. It's a joke. So yes, you would have heard about traditional performance management in which all the employees basically come together. They formulate their goals in the beginning of Q1. It could be top-down, bottoms-up approach where we set our goals, and then quarterly or 6 monthly, there is a review with the manager and uplines, and all the employees are expected to write down their achievements with respect to goals. Sometimes in more forward-looking organizations, this can happen on a quarterly basis, but the traditional performance management has been failing us for a very long time, and very simply because it is not a continuous coaching. Because what happens is you write your goals, there are certain achievements that your manager reviews with you, and then they give you a rating. Now, nothing changes except for the fact that HR spends a ton of time reviewing these documents, and they also go through a tedious process of fitting that into a curve if that happens, or making sure that some rating is given to the employees. Now, we do find top performers through this process, but most of the time we're missing on the point of making a course correction that needs to happen during the time of performance management. You don't have to wait the entire year to give feedback to your employees, because eventually employees have the sense, does my manager even remember what I did through the year? Do they even know how I've been performing? I have switched from previous project in last 6 months. So how will my manager remember all of the good work that I've done? And also there's this feeling that how do I know my peers, how are they performing with respect to what I've done? Why are they called as catalyst or star performers while I get like a median rating? So what we're going to cover today really quick will be performance management through feedback and feed forward. Now, providing feedback, there's an effective way of providing feedback, but if you keep focus on these 4 questions, letting go of the past when you're actually providing the feedback, telling them the truth, be supportive and helpful, not judgmental and negative, and pick something that they can improve upon. So the focus is not on judging. These could be some of the parameters that you can use in providing feedback to your employees. Now, very crucial is, how do I ask for or solicit feedback? There's only one question: how can I do better? Now, we do ask for feedback on what do you think about it? How do you feel about my performance, etc. But the best and the most effective way could be choosing few things that you want to improve and ask people on how you could improve on those. Additionally, feedback becomes really useless in case it is not documented for future purposes. Like I said, through the year, nobody's going to remember how the manager can't remember with their 16 to 20 employees in the team on what they have been doing. So documentation becomes really important. And the best results will be if you provide thoughtful and unique statements. So avoid cookie cutter approaches. Comments that are very vague will not help your employees. Make them detailed and specific and fact-based, and focus on tangible outcome. Instead of just saying that a person is good with customers or they're improving on their cross-functional collaboration, give very specific feedback on what was achieved and how this person achieved it, living through the values and course of achievement. So that's traditional feedback. Now, coming to the topic of, how to give feedback to top performers. Now, this is one of the topics that intrigues me, because a lot of time managers feel that they're not equipped enough to provide feedback to top performers because they're doing good. Now, let me break it down to you. This is the best way to ask your top performers to start looking out for other opportunities. If you're not doing a good job of providing them effective feedback, what they're going to do is they probably will think this is the end of career for them in this company. And that's the last thing you want to do. You don't want to lose your performers, and you want to continue giving them continuous feedback. So here are some of the tips that you can use. When you go to provide feedback to top performers, be as prepared you would want to be when you're providing feedback to those who are not performing at the best of their levels. Also, at the same time, you want to give them feedback through stakeholders as well, not just coming from one person, but you want to have other stakeholders engaged who can provide them feedback, a meaningful feedback that they can improve upon, because top performers also crave for improving and growing. And if they lose out on that opportunities, that's a short way of losing your top cream in the company. I'll take a pause and see if you want to write some comments or questions in the LinkedIn Live feedback. And if I can't take care of those questions right now, I'd love to get back to them later. Now, that's about feedback. And I really wanted to cover some of the important pieces of feedback before we move to Feedforward. So what are the challenges with traditional feedback? It's mostly about the past. It's about what has been done in last quarter and how they could improve. It's often negative, people something that they missed or didn't do. That's the connotation with feedback. And someone generally telling people what to do. So they come from a perspective of an expert or somebody more experienced. So it makes people defensive. And if this has been, nobody wants to remind you of, now think about your spouse or your partner and them reminding you constantly of the mistakes that you did 6 months back and then flashbacking them every time on your face. Now, nobody wants that. And that's the challenge with traditional feedback. Why feed forward? It's opposite of feedback. Yes, of course. It's about future with endless opportunities, and you can try many different approaches. So it doesn't make people defensive because it provides them opportunity to explore various things. And it has to be something positive that people can do. These are suggestions for the future, ideas you can try or not try. So the person receiving feed forward does not have to commit to necessarily do them and when they want to do them. These are some of the options. And in summary, these are positive suggestions for future. So what is feed forward then? It's a positive, upbeat way to help yourself get better and help other people get better. It is a key component of being manager as a coach. Now, that's the piece that we've been missing so far in traditional performance management. The managers never get an opportunity to coach and course correct even before the rating system kicks in. So what's your role in Feedforward? You can do this professionally, personally, anywhere. So a role of a person is either as a helper or as a learner. So if I am the one providing Feedforward, then I'm playing the role of the helper, and the person receiving Feedforward plays the role of a learner. So what are the rules of Feedforward? How does that play along? So feedback is no feedback about the past. Feedforward completely focuses on what can be done about future. And the second one is the most critical one that comes very difficult. You can't judge or critique ideas. Now, these are the only two rules that you need to stay focused on when providing or receiving feed forward. So why are they so difficult to follow? This is an exercise that I would have done officially if we were in a room where we could interact, and I would have actually separated you into different teams, pick up a piece of paper, write one or two things that you want to improve upon, and then you take that piece of paper and move on and meet different people in that room. And you ask them one or two things that you can improve upon from that topic. So if I would like to become a better listener in future, I would go around and ask Enrique, can you please give me 2 ways that I can become a better listener? Because this is one of the ways that I want to improve my leadership style. And Enrique can give me 1 or 2 options from what he thinks has helped him in the past, or what he thinks can improve people on becoming better listeners. And then I move on in the room and move to the next person. And I ask them the same question. They don't give me 72 ideas, just one or two ideas on how I can improve in becoming a better listener. So you may move around the room and ask for as many suggestions as you can and note them down. Now, here's a list of things they can do to be a better listener. You take that along. You're not committing necessarily to each one of them. You just say thank you and move on. Accept this feed forward as a gift that you received. When you receive a gift, what do? A stinky gift, a bad gift, whatever kind of gift that you receive, you just say thank you and move on. So common misconceptions about feed forward. Normally people think that if I have to provide feed forward or coaching to my employees, then I need to have a deep knowledge of them, or I need to be smarter or superior in some ways. Now, in a way, that's kind of true, but you would notice that a lot of executive coaches are not necessarily folks who've been the CEOs. So how on earth can they provide feedback or coaching or feed forward to these executives of large companies when they haven't necessarily been the one who have led Fortune 500 companies? But you would see they come from a perspective of providing feed forward in real life that allows them to coach these CEOs. And during that process, they're not necessarily the deep knowledge of that particular person, because coaching assignments normally are for like a year, 2 years or longer, but they don't know them from childhood. Also, they're not necessarily the smartest people or superior in some sense for these CEOs. They usually use the feed forward or coaching method. They reach out to the folks working in their teams. So if I was the CEO of the company, they would reach out to the board. They'd reach out to my leadership team and ask them, what are few things that Anju could change if she wants to be a better leader? And we pick up 3 topics on which I would like to improve and constantly do check-ins on those areas. And that's the methodology of executive coaching that most of the executive coaches use. So you don't need to have a deep knowledge of to help somebody, and you don't necessarily have to be an expert in that area too. Now, 10 surefire reasons to try feed forward, and few of them would be that if you want to try feed forward, 1, you need to be a better listener. So when you listen to the ideas that are coming to you, just listen to them, make a note of this, say thank you. 2, you need to be very, very proactive in asking for feed forward, because people don't necessarily know when you're ready to accept for feedback. And when it comes to you, you might be very defensive. So you'd rather be more proactive and asking for that kind of feed forward. Most of the time, people would use feed forward when they've moved from the denial phase of thinking that there is nothing wrong, then I'm fine, I've been successful in doing what I've been doing so far. However, referring to one of the Marshall's book, which says what got you here won't get you there. So if in future you want to move into leadership and you want to improve, there are things that might be blind spots for you, and feed forward really helps in those areas. So we can change future, but we can't change the past. And that's important because feedback, as we mentioned, focuses on the past, but feed forward is about the future. It can be more productive to help people doing the right thing from when they were doing wrong. Feed forward especially suited for successful people. And the reason that we mentioned this, it's suited for successful people, is because successful people are those who've moved away from the denial phase. They're ready to accept that there are blind spots that they haven't explored yet. And this is the time they would like to ask people around them on how they could do it. Feed forward can come from anyone who knows about the task. As we mentioned, you don't necessarily have to be an expert in that area. And you don't take feed forward personally. It is a way that you can improve. Feedback can reinforce personal stereotyping and negative self-fulfilling prophecies. Face it, most of us hate getting the feedback. Like I said, sometime when people remember things that we have done wrong, it is kind of embarrassing to face those, and that's why we move away from doing anything about it. Feed forward, however, focuses on what is coming in the future and how could you do things differently. People listen more attentively to feed forward than feedback. Feed forward in my personal life. Now that we've known what is feedback and what is feed forward, I want all of you know that I use it very effectively all the time in my one-on-one meetings with my manager, with my team members, and I'll always ask them, what is one way that I can be a better manager? Or what is one way that I can be a better team member? And how can I improve in becoming more cross-functional, collaborative with other teams that I work? However, recently I asked my parents who live in another country, and I asked them, how could I be a better daughter? And it was very emotional for me to hear, because my parents, my father was in army and he's retired now, and they live in a small countryside, and most of the time they look forward for our calls. And us being so busy during the day and with little children, we do once a week calls. But then I realized they keep looking through the videos that I send of my children all over and over again, and keep talking about it. And I realized one way that I could be better in terms of being present with them is at least one call a day, and especially in time like this. And it has been a game changer. Every morning, 5:55, religiously I receive a call from my parents, and they've been so much happier. And the feed forward helped me when I asked them this question on how can I improve.